Welcome to our panel with Rob Denblacker, the creative genius behind Cyanide Happiness. And we are here to talk about balancing controversy and comedy, which means, while this isn't necessarily an 18-plus show, there may be some language and ideas that you're going to have to explain on the ride home.
Yeah, well, we're gonna say the fuck word, possibly.
Yeah, we're gonna say the fuck word.
So if you're a child, you should get out.
So, all right. So let's just start. Cyanide Happiness is not. I should say, if you guys do have any questions throughout, there is a microphone set up here. Feel free to jump up and ask as we go. There may be special surprises waiting for you. We don't know. But Cyanide Happiness is not known for being soft and cuddly.
I think that's one of the benefits of the internet and the online format is, like, I don't have an editor or a boss. I just make whatever I feel like, and within 30 seconds, for better or worse, it's on the internet for millions of people to see, and that's usually a good thing. Sometimes we go too far. Sometimes I make a comic that isn't funny. That's the real risk. Like, it's not being too offensive. It's making a joke. Thank you. Making a joke that's only funny to me and nobody else is a very real risk when you're putting stuff online, because there's nobody.
For like 20 more seconds.
There's nobody to tell you no. You're in charge of your output. You're your own boss. But it's amazing. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I've been doing stuff online for about 25 years now. Since I was a kid, I've been posting animations and comics on the internet, and the internet's only getting worse, and maybe we're part of it, the problem. but yeah, it's a good place to make friends.
Well, you're one of the grandfathers, really, of kind of internet comics. I mean, Cyanide Happiness, Cyanide Happiness is what, about 20 years old now?
It's about to turn 20, yeah. Cyanide Happiness started in 2005, so we're about to celebrate our 20-year anniversary, which is pretty crazy. It makes me feel old.
Time flies. But now, that's the thing, with the internet, the barrier to entry becomes really, really low. And so if something happens, we're here at Comic Con. If somebody yesterday had a really interesting encounter, they could have gone home last night, write a parody song, record it, and put it up on YouTube in a matter of hours. And so does that happen with you? Do you just, like, at some point, would you just come up with an idea and just go, oh, fuck it, and throw it up? Or
yeah, because we work, in the format of stick figures, my comics are incredibly fast to make. Sometimes, like, the longest I'll spend on a comic is maybe half an hour, which is great because I'm lazy, and it also frees up my time to do things that actually pay the bills and that are important. So, like, I have to kind of run my own business. There's more than just, like, the butt jokes that you see on our Facebook page. Like, behind the scenes, like, we have a business manager, we have a card game department, we have editors and animators, and it's a lot of invisible work to make the butt jokes work.
Excellent. So, all right, so let's talk controversy. What is the most? Is that working? Do we need to get you a new mic?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. What's the most controversial comic? Is there one that somebody that you just go, ooh, that we should not have put that out, or I'm glad we put that out because it gets people talking?
Well, so I've been doing these comics for close to 20 years, and, like, if you think back on how your sense of humor 20 years ago is probably very different than it is now. That's just part of growing up. Like, right. Looking back at my previous work and cringing is something I do more often than I should. But it's not the case that, like, the comics went too far or I was trying to offend somebody and hurt people's feelings. It's more the case that, like, I made a comic in 2005 and I was 19, and, like, it's a college kid that wrote this joke, and I no longer relate to that kid because I'm now 38 years old. So I do often go back and look at old comics and regret them, but not for the reasons that you'd think.
Just kind of the artwork is, it's way too refined at that point. You were spending way too much time.
I might have been drunk when I made the comic too.
Right.
Who knows?
But so, I mean, are there jokes and stuff that, are there comics that you kind of look at now and go, ooh, in 2005 world, that was reasonable, even if it was pushing a boundary, but today that just does not fly?
I think, yeah, I think like people like to call it like cancel culture or whatever, but in reality, like humor does change over time, and what is acceptable and not acceptable kind of changes as the years go on. And like, I don't think we've ever made a comic that would like fully cancel us or anything. But yeah, there's definitely like, I grew up on stuff like Family Guy, and there's so many jokes in Family Guy that if you did them now, like it would be unacceptable. And I'm sure if you dug through our archives, you'd probably find some jokes that we wouldn't make these days. But like, never intended to punch down or hurt anybody. But I think like looking, if you don't look back at your work from a decade ago and cringe a little bit, then like something's wrong. That means you haven't developed as a person.
Growing.
Yeah,
you're not growing at that point. Well, which then begs the question, are there any topics, and we can talk about how we get to humor and what humor is, but are there any topics that you consider off limits? I mean, Jerry Seinfeld is very famously now going on and saying that comedy is dead because, you can't talk about whatever.
No, I don't agree with that. I think that oversimplifies, what comedy is. And I think when I write a comic, I'm not trying to push boundaries or see how far I can go. I'm just trying to make myself laugh. I'm making something that I think is genuinely funny. And I know, like, I'm kind of maybe my sense of humor is a little bit twisted because of, my inspirations when I was growing up. And it all kind of feeds into itself. Like, our comics have inspired other people to start webcomics. And I forgot where the question was going, but yeah, like it's kind of a snake eating its tail. I take inspiration from my own business partners, and we don't really have off limits subjects. I think we kind of have like a deep understanding of like what's funny and what's just mean.
Well, that's it, and so I mean that's what they often say is that if you're punching up, it's okay. If you're punching down, it's probably not, even if it's the same kind of, the same thematic joke.
Right.
And so how do you pick topics, in your mind, or do you just kind of...
Well, like in my mind, Cyanide Happiness is like an alternate universe that's similar to ours, but much worse, where people are very, very cruel to each other. But like contrast that with like I guess what you'd call like a hashtag relatable webcomic, where it's about everyday experience. Like, well, traffic sure takes a long time, but we're not like that. We try to make jokes about disease and death and like terrible things, and finding the humor like in the darker side of humanity. And if you read our comics and if you thought that they were based on real life or real life experiences, you might think that I'm a monster, for telling these kinds of stories. But really, it's just we just use our imaginations. We even have, like me and my two co-writers, we have a secret Slack channel where we write comics and we riff. And in that channel, like nothing's off limits. Like we try to offend each other. We try to push boundaries, just to break the ice and get each other laughing. And it's stuff that we'll never produce. It's just jokes for the three of us to get our creative juices flowing.
And does anybody ever for birthdays just kind of go, oh fuck it, I'm gonna draw this one out for them?
Sometimes, yeah. And like a few times on my birthday, like I've done a comic like that I just rush a really quick joke about how, because it's the cartoonist's birthday, I'm just gonna draw boobs on every character just for my own benefit, stuff like that. But our website is blacklisted from Google Ads and all the major ad networks, which shouldn't be surprising. But it's all the more reason we have to reach out to like YouTube and other revenue sources, because most ad companies take one look at our website and say, nah,
not gonna happen, not gonna happen. I had a question and now it's completely gone. What was going? I don't remember.
Oh, if anyone in the audience has questions, feel free to line up.
Does anybody have a question?
Yeah,
don't wait for us. We can talk. Now I remember the question. Sure. We can talk all night long. So if you guys have a question, interrupt us. That's fine. Go ahead.
We're gonna keep it casual.
I remember you saying that you love to be a funny guy. Have you ever thought about stand-up comedy?
I have. Like, it's weird. Like right now, I'm obviously, sitting here with a microphone in front of a lot of people. And 20 years ago, that would have terrified me, but I've just gotten used to it. But stand-up is a unique challenge. Like, I have so much respect for those people. Like, holding an audience's attention for an hour it's an incredible challenge. I think I prefer to stay anonymous and hide behind my computer screen. That's one of the joys of making comics. But yeah, thanks for the question. And also, we're doing something unusual. When people ask good questions, we're giving out prizes today. So I want to give you this Sad Larry pin here.
Next.
Hi there.
Hi.
A really simple question for you. What do you think happened to Rapture Rejects? Why did it fail?
Well, I talked about this in my panel yesterday about like oftentimes like having a project that doesn't succeed, it can be a learning experience, even when it's a bummer. But yeah, Rapture Rejects, it was a top-down battle royale game, and I think the problem was we released it. Our publishing friends, we were trying to create a game that we saw as being popular at the time, but I think we were a little bit too late. When we released it, there were about 15 other battle royale games that were similar, and some of them were even free to play. And our game cost $20, and there was really no competing. And because it's an online game, you have to have a large player base for it to succeed. And we never got the right number of players, so unfortunately, it kind of went south. But we did learn a valuable lesson, which is video games are incredibly risky and difficult to produce.
Okay.
But
do you think that releasing it in early access had anything to do with it?
I think it was mostly the price point, and it wasn't worth the price tag for most people. I think there wasn't enough game, and we didn't reach the appropriate critical mass of players.
All right.
But thanks for your question. I've got a prize for you as well. Here, I'm gonna have to reach deep for this one. There it is. Did I remember to bring that? Here, we got these Cyanide and Happiness bottle openers. Here you go. Cool.
Hi.
Hi, hello again.
Yeah, hello again. I feel like a serial killer or a stalker coming.
No, it's great.
The questions line 3 days in a row. The one sentence you have said a lot in these 3 days is internet is getting worse. So could you maybe elaborate further on that idea and what would need to happen, in your opinion, for you to say the internet is getting better?
Well, when I say like the internet's getting worse, like that's only in some ways. I think a lot of platforms are getting worse, like YouTube and Facebook. Lots of like AI is taking over. But other parts of the internet are getting better. I think it's easier than ever to like find an audience on places like Instagram and TikTok. Although my country is in the process of banning TikTok, I think. But I think in a lot of ways the internet is getting better just because everyone's on it. It's never been easier to create a comic and put it online. Like back when I started, you had to have a website. You had to find some nerd who knew HTML so that you could even put your work on the internet. And now there is no barrier. All you need is an Instagram account to publish. So yeah, I think it's more complicated. I think the internet's getting better and worse at the same time.
Okay. Do you have any tips for staying, I don't know, creatively sane, as in not to get overwhelmed with, being a creator and all that it entails?
Yeah, I think like the most important thing, especially in webcomics, is to be consistent. It's not enough to make something good. You have to be regular. In fact, we learned this lesson the hard way very early on. Like in 2007, this was 2 years after the comic started, we decided to give ourselves a break for the holidays. So we took a 2-month hiatus and stopped making comics. And like half of our audience disappeared because it's the internet. There's so much stuff to do. Like there's so much content out there. And you hear the same thing from Twitch streamers. Like if they take too much time off, they lose some of their fans to other channels. And that's kind of one of the unfortunate parts of making stuff online is you can't really have time off. You have to be consistent. That's really the only way to grow.
Okay. Last question from me. Has working on your comics sort of made you reflect upon something in depth and change your opinion as a result?
Sorry, can you ask that again?
Has working on these comics sort of made you reflect about something and change your opinion as a result on something?
I mean, I've been doing it so long that yeah, I think my sense of humor and like my opinions and stuff, yeah, are always changing. But yeah, I think anyone trying to pursue an online career like has to prepare themselves for constant change. You can't just do one thing forever. You have to kind of go with the flow and try lots of different things and hope that one of them takes off.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Oh, and I do have a prize for you. Since you asked such great questions, I'm going to give you the collector's edition of our new party game, Master Tater. Yeah.
So, 1 second. So I'm just going to ask a really quick question to piggyback on that.
Yeah.
Do you research for your cartoons, for the comics? Do you do any research, or is it just kind of whatever's going on around you?
My comic's not very research heavy compared to like, say, like XKCD. You know? It doesn't take a lot. When I do research, it's usually a drawing reference. It's like, 99% of the time I'm drawing stick figures, but then occasionally I've got to draw a bicycle, and I don't know if you've ever drawn a bike before, but it's really hard to do from memory. Whenever I draw a bike from memory, it looks like shit. So I'll just pull an image and use it as a reference. But no, I don't really do much research outside of visual references.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Please.
Is there a comic that you hadn't released for being too dark and you thought you'll get canceled for it?
Well, yeah, we just make whatever we think is funny. We never really try to be offensive. We just happen to be offensive people. So I think our sense of humor, obviously all of you came to this panel, so we share a sense of humor, and I think that's one of the cool things about the internet is you don't need to be safe. Although these days you kind of do on places like Facebook, because if you post the wrong comic, you can get banned for 3 days. So, but yeah, I wouldn't say we avoid topics, but we definitely have like an internal sense of like what's appropriate and what's too far when we're writing.
Thank you.
Yeah, here, I've got something for you. Here. Here's a Sad Larry pen. Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Rob. Welcome back to Comic Con.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask, when are the Joking Hazard expansions coming out? Any new ones planned?
We have 4 released, and we're working on the 5th one right now. We're in the process of playtesting and drawing it. So
all right.
soon.
Any spoilers?
It's got a lot of really messed up faces, and it's definitely our dirtiest one. I think we're pushing the boundaries a lot because we've already drawn so many cards that I think that the next logical step is to make even more fucked up cards. So,
That's great, because we really missed the offensive cards.
yeah, we're definitely pushing it with the new one.
All right,
But,
thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Here, I got something for you. This game actually, this one's a little bit messed up, so I apologize. You already have it? You already have it? All right, well, fine. I'll give it. Here, I'll give you a bottle opener. Here you go.
Hey, go ahead.
Hey, so you mentioned Facebook ban for 3 days. How often does your social media get impacted by reports, bans? Does that occur?
It used to happen more because around 2016, 2017, like Facebook got really strict out of nowhere, and we were all caught by surprise, and I found myself getting banned for a lot of weird things. Like, for example, like you're not allowed to post artwork that like talks about suicide, for example. And some of my comics like are obviously like about suicide, but I would post it, and then I would wake up the next morning, and I would get a message from Facebook saying, like, you've been banned for 3 days, and then under that it would say, also, here's the crisis hotline if you want to reach out and get some help. I'm like, so they banned me while also asking if I'm okay, which is a nice gesture. Thanks, Mark Zuckerberg.
At least they care. Has generative AI impacted your work, and are you utilizing it in any way?
I have in small ways. Like I've never used AI for artwork generation, but I do sometimes use it for business stuff. Like I've sometimes put in like a contract and said, look, like analyze this contract and look for red flags. I've also used it occasionally in like social media. You can put in like one phrase and say, can you generate 20 more versions of this phrase, so that you can like kind of put that on, you can queue up some advertisements. But yeah, I've used like some AI in small ways for things that otherwise would just take me a lot longer. But I definitely, I've tried, as an experiment, I tried to use AI to help me write jokes once, and it didn't work at all. It would either try to be funny and fail, or it would just give me really unfunny like suggestions. So I don't think it really works. It's not going to replace writers anytime soon, thankfully.
Cool.
You can use it to draw bicycles.
Yeah. Here, I got something for you. Here.
Trade me.
What's that?
Trade me.
Oh, sure. Here you go.
Hello there.
Hi.
I was wondering, do you have any fears of AI replacing you as a comic creator, or any type of work you do with card games?
No, I don't think so. And yeah, there's something I've been reading a lot about, especially on Facebook, which has been overrun with AI now. When you see an AI photo or painting and it's got like 50,000 likes under it, like those 50,000 likes are also bots. So if the internet becomes AI content by bots and for bots, then so be it. I think there's always going to be human beings out there who just want to like entertain each other and have real connections. So I think, yeah, and I don't think cartoonists are going to be replaced necessarily. I think the real risk is these larger companies using AI to replace employees, to make their teams smaller, so that rich people can get richer. I think that's where the real risk is.
Also, you have now released 3 card games and counting, maybe more you will release in the future. But is it too overwhelming to work on expansions for all 3 games?
Well, yeah, we started our card game business in 2016 after our first Kickstarter, and now that's actually like the majority of what we do is card games, behind the scenes anyway. We have a team of about a dozen people, and 9 of them work on the card games. So no, we have a lot of people helping us, so it's pretty easy to keep games going. When we have about 3 or 4 new games in development that are still very early stages.
But how many of those were concepts that never came to be?
I mean, it's just like anything, like animation in card games. It's all a very organic process where you try it, and if it doesn't work, then you walk away. Writing a script and making a card game are very similar. You're just experimenting, and if it makes you laugh, then it's good, and if it doesn't, then it's not good. You don't know until you try. And in fact, like playtesting, card games has become kind of my favorite part of the job, besides the comics.
Same as mine.
Yeah, do you do playtesting?
I play all of your games.
Cool. Yeah, it's fun. I love the process of developing card games. I love just having an idea, then taking out some paper and drawing up some cards, and playing it with friends and seeing if it clicks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Here, I've got a copy of Master Dater for you. It's a little bit busted up. But it actually contains bonus joking hazard cards, too. Yeah. This is all stuff we don't have to ship back, which is great.
Hello. So I've had a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
How often have you made a joke that was so dark you had to rewrite it for the sake of not getting banned?
Well, yeah, I think we definitely, like, we have a private writing chat where we push boundaries on purpose. We like pitch jokes to each other just to make each other laugh, but we don't actually produce any of them. But I definitely have gone back and fixed comics, like not to make them less offensive, but to add jokes that I wish I had thought of when I made the comic initially. Yeah, there's one that I just went back like fully like 3 years later, and I deleted it and replaced it with a better version of the same comic, and I didn't tell anybody. I just waited for people to discover it, and a few people did. But that's one of the things you can't do with a newspaper comic. You can't go back in time and change it, but you can do that on the internet because it's all numbers.
Yeah, of course. Also, have you ever considered learning Lithuanian?
I mean, it's the alphabet is the same, but everything else seems difficult.
So the funny letters don't bother you?
No, we Americans, we prefer to speak one language and force everybody else to learn English.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Here, I've got something for you. A little bottle opener. Here.
Do you think that after the con here, we'll get a Lithuanian-only Cyanide Happiness cartoon, like a specific con special?
I do actually. One of my prints that I'm selling here is a Comic Con Baltics exclusive. It's never published online. It's just a physical print only. But if you want to see what that comic is, you'll have to come by our booth and read it.
Great.
Hello.
Hi.
I want to ask, should there be dark humor limits or shouldn't there be?
Sorry, should there be limits on dark humor? Is that your?
Yeah.
Can you go too far?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look back at especially the early webcomics, we were not the most offensive comic by far. There were people out there in the early 2000s. There's comics that I'm not even going to name because you might go look them up, and there were some really awful comics, but they were made as gimmicks, and that was kind of, I mean, when you focus only on offending people, I think you're kind of limiting your own career growth. The only person, you're not going to get fired obviously because you're doing it for yourself, but you're also going to be, you're not going to have the same opportunities. So I think self-censorship is a good thing. Knowing who your audience is and what and how far you're willing to push things. It's kind of a question that every artist has to ask themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Here, I got it. Hope I brought enough stuff. We're almost out of prizes. Here you go.
Hello. I have a few questions. So first, I want to welcome you back to Vilnius. And from what I've understood, you've offered yourself to come here. What made you come back here?
It was me, wasn't it?
I think it was you. I don't remember the context, but it was on Facebook. I replied to someone's post.
Actually, it was. You replied to one of my posts about something. You said, I'd love to come back. And I think Polis hit you.
I was like,
let's make this happen.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah, it was just literally a Facebook post, and it's so amazing to be back. Coming here once was amazing, but getting to come twice is pretty cool.
That's really cool. And the second question, since you've made a lot of card games, you must be a card game fan yourself. What are some of your favorite card games?
I really like party games. I'm a big fan of games like Werewolf. I also love drinking games. I like bar games like Jenga. Jenga is one of my favorites. Any game that you can learn in 5 minutes, I'm a huge fan of, and I especially love Cards Against Humanity. That's one of the party games that influenced Joking Hazard. It's a very similar format. But yeah, I love party games mostly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Here, I've got something for you. This is the last one, but we do have a few more at the booth. But, yep.
Go ahead.
Hi. How would your life look like, or what would you do if you couldn't make jokes anymore?
Ooh, I don't think, after working for myself for close to 2 decades, I don't think I could go back to a normal job. If somebody asked me to send a fax, I think I would cry. So I hope I get to keep working in some capacity in this field, but my job isn't the same as it was even 5 years ago. Right now, I'm most of my time is in the card game business, and the comic has become kind of a hobby now because the comic itself doesn't earn any money. It's just something that we do to keep the audience happy. So yeah, I hopefully if I wake up one day and I'm not funny anymore, I'll have created enough of a business and enough fallback options that I don't end up on the streets. But we'll see.
Thanks.
Thank you. Here, I've got something here. We're a little bit low on prizes, but
I'm kidding.
oh, there you go.
Hi there.
Hi.
Just curious, are there any comics that personal funny stories or just the funny ideas that turned into comics?
I would say it's 50-50. A lot of the comics are based not necessarily on real experiences, because if my comics were based on my experiences, I'd probably be in jail.
That's why I'm asking.
but yeah, most of my comics come from just conversations with friends and just having spontaneous ideas. The main thing I have to do is not just having the idea, but writing it down immediately. If I don't write down an idea, like, it vanishes within seconds. So I think the best friend of any writer is like a notepad or an app on their phone to write things down quickly.
That's a good tip. Thanks.
Yeah, here. I think this is the last prize, unfortunately. Can I give away this chair? No?
No. Yeah.
All right. I thought I'd ask. There you go. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi. No prize. Oh well, but I wanted to ask, how did you come up with sketches that has a callbacks, for example, New Year's Time Machine, comics and so?
Yeah, the New Year's Time Machine. I'm glad you asked, because that's a really good question. That one just happened by accident. I made a time machine joke on January 1st, 2006. And then the next year, I figured, it's a time machine. Let's just continue the story. And now it's the most convoluted story arc. Like, I barely understand it anymore. There's people on Reddit who've drawn diagrams, like, explaining the New Year's comic story arc. And I often go back to, like, the fans in that case, like, to remember, like, where the story's been so far, because, like, they've already done the work, and I've already forgotten what happened a year ago. But yeah, that one's fun, because normally our comics are very, like, individual, like they're standalone. But yeah, telling one giant story for 20 years has been pretty cool too.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I have to carry. Okay. They gave me instructions for the microphone, and I didn't get it, so I hope I don't mess up. But anyways, hi Rob. Can you please guide us through your process? Like, I know you just said that you're mostly like business, but maybe like, what is your work day like? And I don't know, like creativity versus discipline, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, my workday changes every day because I wear a lot of hats. Obviously, I make cartoons some days, but I'm also a voice actor. I'm also developing board games. I'm directing animation, trying to work on the next project. So lots of like contract review, lots of boring business meetings. Yeah, my workday usually starts like anyone else. I just get on my computer and try to catch up on emails before more people email me. You know, and try to get that inbox close to zero before everybody wakes up. And now we have two of our team members are actually based in the UK. So they'll be sending messages as early as like 4 in the morning in the US time. So the workday, it's kind of around the clock, always on. But it's really fun. And most of my workday is doing creative stuff, whether it's writing animation or making card games.
Thanks. And maybe another question.
Yeah.
Like you said, in this world where like it's not like it was back in your days, and it's like so many tools, and like you can get a lot of like exposure. But how do you, like, if you're new, how do you find your voice or find your audience? Because like everyone's a creator, and it kind of puts so much pressure. It's like I will never get seen.
Yeah, it's weird. Like we've been around for a long time, but we've also had to reinvent ourselves every so often. Like our audience now is not the same audience we had 20 years ago. Like now hardly anybody goes to our website. Most of our readers read us on Facebook or YouTube. And yeah, the tools to publish have never been easier. Like there's now free software. Like back when I was starting, like the software was very expensive, so we just ended up pirating it anyway. But nowadays, yeah, there's free art programs. Like it's pretty easy to self-publish, and I don't think there's any one piece of advice that you can give to someone starting out, because I have friends who are they're making comics professionally on Instagram, like, and I hardly ever use Instagram. And I know people who are doing animation on TikTok, and they're making a living, which is amazing, because like I've never figured out how to make $1 off of TikTok. I've tried to figure it out, but I can't. And I think like every single creator online, whether it's animation or art or writing, like everyone has a very unique approach to success, and sometimes success is just a happy accident because you tried 10 different things and one of them worked. But our philosophy has always been try everything, and if it doesn't succeed, then try the next thing.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What's your most creative time of day? Do you wake up and sit down to draw comics, or do you wake up, do business, and then have lunch, and then draw comics?
Usually the afternoons. I try to front load my business to get it out of the way. Like I try to keep all my meetings in the mornings. And we shifted our entire company to a 4-day work week last year, which has been amazing. Like everyone loves it, and we're getting just as much stuff done, but we're all happier because we have a 3-day weekend. And I wish that was the case everywhere. But yeah, most of my creativity, I try to save it for the afternoon, for the weekends.
Cool.
Okay, hello. What inspired you to use comics as your medium for making jokes?
Well, when I was a kid, I didn't make comics. When I was about 14 years old, and I taught myself how to animate using Flash. And this was like way before YouTube. This was like 2000, 2001. Yeah. And there was this website called Newgrounds where I met a lot of the people who I still work with today. And it was a very small community, but it was full of people like me who were just like, instead of going out to parties, we got on our computers and made animations. And from that, when I went to college, I just had less free time because I had classes. So I decided to try comics instead, because instead of animating 24 frames per second, you're just drawing 4 panels and then you're done, and then that's the joke, and it's so much easier. So I guess to answer your question, I think I settled on comics out of laziness. It's the easiest way to get a joke from my head like onto the screen is the 4-panel comic.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
So since your audience is worldwide and you're pretty popular, your comics must be generally understandable to all kinds of people. So is that like a conscious decision, or do you just subconsciously do it?
Well, yeah, I think our comics definitely have a worldwide appeal, and there's also a community element. Like a lot of people in other countries will translate our comics. Like I think there's a French Instagram that's completely like unofficial. Like we don't talk to them. They just take our comics and they translate them, and we think that's amazing. It's like on the internet when you post something, once it's out there, it no longer really belongs to you. It's out there to be remixed and shared and changed and translated. So yeah, I think we rely a lot on our audience to help translate. But yeah, there's also something universal about the jokes. Like there's no characters to follow, there's no storylines. You can read one comic, and if it's not funny to you, you can just check back tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey Rob. So if it was a job interview, I think you'd be hired,
Sorry?
If it was a job interview, I think you'd be hired. These were very good answers.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So the simple question, So what's your favorite comic of all time that you can remember, and why?
I'm having a hard time hearing you over the mic.
So
your favorite comic?
Yeah, the one.
Favorite comic of mine?
Yeah, correct.
Ooh, that's a hard one. Like I've made thousands of comics, so it's hard to really choose. Probably the genie comic, I think, where the guy wishes for more wishes, and the genie says you can't wish for more wishes, so he wishes for more genies, and then a bunch of genies show up. But yeah, that's one of my favorites, I think.
Thank you.
Hmm?
So I wanted to ask, have you had any like rivals or beefs with someone, or maybe someone was stealing your art and getting paid for it?
Not lately, no. The comics community is pretty chill and friendly. Everybody knows each other, and we all get along. Yeah, there was a time in the early 2000s where there was like there were some rivalries that I didn't really understand. And maybe it's because it was the Wild West back then. But like, yeah, like there was apparently Scott Kurtz didn't like us very much. He does a comic called PvP. But other than that, I've never really beefed with another cartoonist. We all get along and we help each other.
Thank you.
Hello. I want to ask you, how do you get over an art block, if you do have it?
Yeah, I have writer's block all the time. And I think it never goes away, I think. And I've talked to other people, and they experience the same thing. And but for me, my solution is just changing my environment. Like if I'm not feeling funny, it's not because I've run out of ideas. Like ideas don't come from a place. It's not like a big pile of ideas, then you get to the bottom of the pile and then you're done. You have to retire. It's more the case that ideas come from a state of mind. It comes from your attitude and your surroundings and the people that you're with. So I find writer's block, like the only solution for me is to just change my environment, hang out with friends or take a walk around the block, just try to free my mind a little bit. And sometimes alcohol helps. Sometimes just having a few drinks can help.
Thank you.
Hello, mates. I want to ask you a question about your private channel about the darker stuff. In my opinion, in humor, anything goes. Sex and racism, dead babies, war, you name it. Was there a time when someone posted a joke in your private channel and you just saw, man, it's so dark, but so good, we should post it?
I mean, it's kind of the same thing as like when you're hanging out with your closest friends, then anything goes, but when you're publishing to a Facebook page with millions of followers, then you have to, you have to ask yourself, is this really worth the risk to publish? But yeah, our comics writing channel is very much like a safe space for humor where anything goes. And then from that, we kind of extract the jokes that work, and we help each other find the punchline or make it funnier. But yeah, that channel is one of the, like Chris and Dave, I rely on them a lot for writing, helping with the comics. We definitely have a collaborative spirit when it comes to comics.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello. I have a very question.
Okay.
How do you know which Twix is right and which is left, and which is your favorite?
Which what is right?
Twix.
Oh, wow. I think they're both right, aren't they? Sometimes they're both left.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think in factories they sometimes mix it up and put two rights, and how do you take a side?
Well, I've always been more of a Kit Kat person, so that doesn't apply to me.
Respect. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's actually our time. Are there any last-minute questions?
No, once the prizes ran out, the questions were over.
Yeah, once the prizes, we're done. We're not going to do it. So, yeah, thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Rob, for being here. Easiest moderating job I've ever had. It's great. You guys make my job much more easy. So thank you guys for coming. But be sure to go check out the merch booth to find the Baltic Comic Con, the Comic Con Baltics exclusive Cyanide Happiness comic.
Yeah,
only available here. So
yeah, thank you all so much.
Thank you guys for coming.